Good afternoon, and welcome back for another Q&A session. So coming up on today's Q&A, we're going to talk about where where do I start? You've just joined the gym, and kind of how do you put together a program? Best warm up for a weights workout. Is it more dynamic? Is it cardio? Is it doing the same exercises with a little bit of weight? So we'll talk more about that. How do I know if my form is good enough? And there's also a question built into that about body weight exercise and how we can incorporate those into a strength or resistance training program. And then lastly, how can I work around my shoulder? And does that cause any interruption to the workout, or how do we limit the interruption it causes there? And then any questions that you ask live, we will try and answer within this. If there's not time, then I'll answer that in a future week. But with that in mind, if you have any questions about strength training as an older adult, if there's any big challenges you face that you're struggling to overcome and you want some ideas, whether that's getting started or taking the next step in the progression, then please use this opportunity. You can either use a chat feature if you're on YouTube, or if you're on Facebook, and you can use a comments feature underneath the video, and I'll do my best to answer that. You may well be watching this after this has gone live, so I do keep checking the comments, so please do comment with your questions and I will have a look and answer that in a future week. But before we go into the questions, as always, there's only one thing I ask: that if you are watching this and you found any value from this videos, then I really do appreciate it if you just click the thumbs up button underneath the video, and just make sure you're subscribed to the Never Told to Lift YouTube channel, so you don't miss out on any future videos as they come out. Then that'd be much appreciated. So let's just hide those. So first question comes in from Anita. And Anita says, where do I start? I've joined a gym, but I have no idea what program to do. So hi, Anita. Thank you for your question. And firstly, just well done for taking the first step of actually joining the gym, because you're already a step ahead of most people. But I completely understand that actually then you step in the gym for the first time, particularly if you're not familiar. There's so many bits of equipment, there's so many exercises you could choose from, and it's a little bit like paralysis by analysis. Is just there's so much choice that you don't make a choice, and then you sort of step out, or you might just sit on a bike for half an hour and then leave again. So yeah, it can be very daunting when you start to put together a strengthening program. So I'll try and give a little brief overview here, and then give you a guide or a link to where you can get a little bit more information on putting together a program. But to start with, we really have to think about what you want to get from joining the gym. Was it that we want to get stronger? And the fact that you're on the Never Told to Lift sort of Facebook, I'm imagining there's an element of that you're wanting to get stronger, feel stronger. I've heard that it's a good thing to do as you get older. But what's that going to mean for you? So if you were stronger, what things could that open up for you to do, or what things are you going to be able to continue doing into the future? If you're able to do those things, how's that going to make you feel? Is that going to help you support other family in terms of looking after your grandchildren and things like that? And the more you can think about the benefits you're going to get from doing the exercises and feeling stronger, the more chance there is you're going to stick to it when things feel like you're plateauing, or you feel like you felt unwell and you're struggling to get back in after that. And the less you think about the goals and the reasons for doing this, the more chance you're going to drop off and lose motivation. So goal planning is a stage that most people miss. So that's kind of the first one I always suggest. And then when it comes to putting a program together, it actually doesn't matter too much in terms of the exercises you pick. You generally want to pick some exercises that cover a lot of the area of the body. So in a workout, I tend to suggest maybe picking 4 exercises to start with. And you might, if you're going twice a week, on one day you might do 4 exercises, another day you might do a different 4 exercises. I tend to favour what we call functional movement patterns, or compound lifts. So they're exercises such as maybe a squat that mimics what you do on a day-to-day activity. So getting up from a chair, you're doing a squat. Getting up and down from the toilet, you're doing a squat. So the stronger you get in squats, the more you can see it's going to help you in day-to-day life. There's things like a hip hinge, which is like a deadlift. There's things like push exercises where you're pushing something away from you, or that could be a shoulder press or a chest press. You could do a pull exercise where you're pulling something towards you or pulling yourself up to a bar like a pull-up. They're kind of those functional movement patterns. But equally, a lot of people feel when they're starting, they quite like the look of the machines because you can sit in them. They feel a bit safer. They're kind of giving you a lot more support, and you're just working kind of one group of muscles at a time. Again, absolutely fine to do those. But whatever 4 exercises you pick for that first workout, or if you're alternating workouts, is you actually then want to stay consistent with those over the next sort of month, 2 months, 3 months, ideally. So you're doing the same workout every time. So that gives the consistency you need for those muscles to actually get stronger. Because what doesn't happen is if you just work them once and the next workout you do some completely different workout, and the next one you pick something else and you mix it up every time, you never really get the consistency to build the strength, if it is mainly the strength you want out of this. In terms of once you've picked an exercise, I normally suggest you start with 3 sets of 15 repetitions. So a repetition is you're going to do that exercise 15 times. So say you picked a squat, you're going to sit up and down for 15, then you're going to have a break, and then you're going to do another 15, then you're going to have a break, and then you do another 15. So you'd have just done 3 sets of 15. Eventually we want to start increasing resistance so that the last one starts to feel like it's hard work. You couldn't have done many more if you tried. And that's the last few repetitions are the ones where you really build strength. And then over time you can gradually keep increasing the weight you use, so that point where you've reached fatigue in the muscles starts to come down to maybe 12 repetitions and then maybe 10. And the closer we can get it to 5, the better and the more strength you'll get. But initially, as long as you're hitting close to fatigue within 15, you're going to get some strength of some form. And I don't want you to feel like you have to use huge weights in order to get to the point where you reach fatigue at 5. So again, I'd want to make this as less daunting for you as possible. So it's start with some exercises, bit of resistance, and get comfortable with that, and then gradually just get comfortable adding a little bit more resistance and adding a bit more resistance. And again, this might take 2 or 3 months to get to a point where you're doing that. But again, if you're still struggling, ask the gym staff. They are often there sitting. If it is a gym that's got someone that's sitting on the gym floor, they're often bored and want something to do, and they appreciate having questions and being able to speak to people and ask and answer those questions. So don't feel daunted. They're not going to feel like you're stupid and that they're going to judge you. Then that's not what they're doing at all. The number of beginners that come into the gym, it's something they deal with on a day-to-day basis. So please do use them. They are a lot friendlier than you might think. And the other option is if there's someone else in the gym, you can always ask them as well. If you see someone else it could be someone similar age to you that is doing the things you want to do, and you see them as an inspiration, then ask them, because again, often they'll love to talk about what they've done and how they got started. But if you are looking for a bit more help on how to get started, I've got let me just bring it up. Oh no, sorry, that's the wrong one. There we go. I've got a free ebook that it guides you through creating your first 12-week strengthening program and using some of the concepts I've just talked about in a lot more detail. So it's how to go through the goal planning phase, and it comes with a goal planner and a workout template that you can use to put together the program. It will talk about the different exercise options available to you depending on your ability level and any restrictions that you might have. And then it will kind of help you put those into that workout template, and then you've then got your workouts that you can work on for 2 to 3 times a week for 12 weeks. If you don't like the idea of a kind of ebook and reading off a screen, then it is available as a paperback that you can find on Amazon. So just search Never Told to Lift on Amazon and that should pop up, and it'll be that same front page. And just, thanks Kim. So Kim's just put in, this is what I use and it's brilliant. So yeah, Kim's given some updates along the way. And yeah, I appreciate your kind words about the book there, Kim. Thank you. But having said that, it doesn't need to be my program. It doesn't need to be this program. There are plenty of things online that will help you put together a program. So I'd suggest just have a little look out there. You'll find something that resonates with you. And once you've picked something, then work on it consistently for 2 to 3 months. Because if you're just trying it for 2 or 3 weeks and not feeling any improvement and you want to give up with it all, it does take more time for muscles to build and for strength to grow. But yeah, if there's any follow-up questions from that, then please feel free to email me again or respond to that email, or I'll leave a comment here. So next question I had from Sharon. So if you're watching live, Sharon, let me know. But Sharon says, I have a question about warming up prior to a weight session. Is it better to warm up with moderately paced body weight, dynamic movement, range of movement, or by doing sets of the exercise you're going to be doing with a much lower weight? Thanks. So, hi, Sharon. I'm going to start by saying it partly depends. There isn't really a wrong or right answer to this. I can let you know what I tend to do and what I suggest with my patients and clients. But it doesn't mean that the other option isn't a good option either. I tend to go down the route of a slight mix of both, but more weighted towards doing the exercise you're about to do. So I tend to like going in and just either sitting on the bike or the row machine for 5 minutes, and I'm not pushing myself to kind of intense cardio. I'm just getting my body moving, sort of just getting used to being in the gym again, and just doing a quick 5 minutes of something to get my heart rate up and to kind of mentally prepare myself for doing a workout. And then sometimes I'll combine that, or I'll get my patients to combine that with a bit of a dynamic warm up. So I tend to use things like leg kicks. So they kind of kick in forwards and backwards. They kick across their side. They'll kind of reach down and they'll kind of put one hand to touch a toe where the other arm comes up, and the same the other side. Some arm circles, and it's just to get all the joints moving and some of the muscles to start to kind of get the blood pumping around them, really. But that is the thing I do a little bit of, and then the thing I really suggest is doing the exercise you're going to be doing with a much lower weight, as you've suggested there. So if you're about to go into a set of squats and you're about to use, 40, 50 kilograms, I would do a set of body weight squats and then maybe a set with 15 kilograms, 20 kilograms. So roughly kind of half the weight you'd normally use. And then you go into what we call your sets with your working weight. And that's that 40 to 50 kilograms where you might be doing sets of 15. So it does mean you're kind of doing 2 additional sets each time, but equally you don't necessarily have to you don't have to leave as big a gap between sets and as much of a rest time, because you're not pushing to fatigue. So it doesn't have to add too much time to your workouts. But yeah, I would tend to do that as what I suggest. But a lot of people just do cardio and then go into it, and that's fine. In my mind, and particularly as a physio, I think if you can just prepare the joints and the muscles for a little bit of weight through them for the bigger weight they're about to do, then in my mind, you've got less risk of injury. But it's debatable with the evidence out there whether that's actually true or not. But I think it mentally prepares you as well if you've done half the weight to then go into your working sets. So yeah, hopefully that helps you there. But yeah, the big thing is just a warm up of some form is definitely something I would suggest doing there. Good. So next question came in by email. So that is another option. If you're not comfortable leaving a comment on YouTube or on Facebook and don't want your sort of name to appear, then please feel free to send me an email. So it's chris@nevertooldtolift.com. So chris@nevertooldtolift.com. And as I've done there, I'll always block out your name and any email address and bring that up. So this person says, how do I know if my form is good enough? And how much and what can I do with my own body weight, such as push-ups and pull-ups? So I'll kind of tackle those question by question. With regards to how to know if my form is good enough, it's a bit difficult. There's definitely mixed messages out there, and my view on this could be considered controversial because it goes against the flow of what most of the sort of messaging is out online. But most people worry that if you haven't got perfect form, then you're going to cause yourself an injury. And that isn't necessarily true. So for example, if you do a deadlift, the ideal is that you have a straight back as you do a deadlift, and you read all the movement is hinging from the hips. Most people say that you're not allowed to round the back at all. It's a big no-no. If you can't do it that rounded back, you shouldn't be doing it. And yes, if you round your back, it does increase the stress on the back, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's just something we need to kind of sort of just be aware of and control. Because if you have always rounded your back when you lift and do a deadlift, your back is our bodies are amazing at being adaptable, and they can adapt positively to the stresses we put on them. So if we gradually stress an area of the body, it gets used to that stress and it becomes more tolerant of it, and we can do more. And that's what's happening with the rounding the back as a deadlift. If you gradually increase the weight, you start low and you've got that form, and you gradually start to increase the weight you're using and gradually start to increase the stresses on the back as you're doing it, your back will adjust to it and you'll be able to lift more later on. What people often think of as the perfect form is actually what we can consider the optimal form. So if you're trying to lift as heavy as possible, the straighter your back is, the more optimal the position it is for your muscles to lift more weight. So ideally, we want to get to as close to the optimal form as possible. But some people coming into this, particularly as an older adult, you might have other conditions, other injuries, other restrictions in movement that mean you can't achieve perfect form. And in some people's mind, you shouldn't then be doing the deadlift. But in my thought, if you're not doing the deadlift, all the muscles and joints and soft tissues associated with the deadlift aren't being worked, and you're then deconditioning, and they're not being stressed at all, so they lose the ability to deal with any stress, which is fine when you're just doing the normal day-to-day stuff. But that time when you go in the garden and you lift that plant pot, you go and going on holiday and you try and lift your 20-kilo suitcase into the back of the boot of the car, you're suddenly a shock to the system, and that's where an injury could occur. Whereas if at least you've started to do the deadlift with the form you've got available to you, which might be slightly rounded, you're then going to prepare the body for when you are going to use it in that same style when you're lifting the suitcase in. So bit of a kind of longer response there, but hopefully that kind of helps to set the frame for my thought process there. Because your question was, how do I know if my form is good enough? What do we mean by good enough? And hopefully I'll kind of cover that there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's got to be as close to optimal as we want. If your form is starting to falter throughout an exercise, so say a shoulder press, you're starting and it feels quite easy, and towards the end you're kind of struggling and you're having to shift the body around underneath you to get it up, then I would argue you've probably then gone too heavy. We want to bring it down, and we want to keep relatively controlled form throughout the movement. So control is a good part of it. If you feel out of control during a movement, then your form isn't good enough, and that's where we could risk an injury. There's another sort of big physio in the strength, or who's big advocate of strength training, and he has a similar mindset to me, but he talks about, if I don't look at your form and feel very uneasy and feel sick at the thought of you doing it, then I'm not worried. And I kind of take the same thought process. If you look at yourself in the mirror or you film yourself doing it, and yes, you can see it's not perfect, but you're not shifting all over the place, and it doesn't look like you're on the edge of being out of control and about to cause you self injury, then I don't mind. Any form is good. And what you'll find is, as you get stronger, your form will start to fall in closer to what the optimal form is. It's probably just because you've got a lack of strength at the moment means you can't quite achieve the perfect form. So hopefully that makes sense. I mean, the other caveat to that is, if you're starting to do an exercise and say you're starting to do a deadlift with a rounded back, and your back is hurting as you're doing it, and you always feel worse than when you started, then we need to adjust. And it might not be the form we need to adjust. We might need to pick a different variation of a hip hinge exercise if that's the exercise that you're having trouble with. And then, or we might adjust the depth of it. And there's different ways we can adjust it to ensure you're starting to build strength in the muscles, and then we can always try that exercise variation back again when you feel a bit stronger. So yeah, don't push through pain if that's a problem, but equally, if you're doing it and it's not painful and it's just that slight awareness, it's not perfect, then I'm not too worried about that. And then the second question there was, how much and what can I do with my own body weight, such as push-ups or pull-ups? So if we're looking at building strength, the big thing is we're trying to achieve muscle fatigue in the muscle groups we're challenging within 15 repetitions. So if you do a push-up, whether it's on your knees, whether it's on your toes and you're doing a normal push-up, if you get to 15 and you could have done more and you can carry on and you do 20, 25, 30, and you're not reaching that fatigue point within 15 repetitions, you're not really getting any stronger. So body weight then now isn't enough. And it's the same with squats. If you did, say, body weight squats and you could do more than 15 with ease, you're not going to get stronger. So whilst it's still good to do some movement, if your aim was to get stronger, we need to add some weight to that squat, or we need to, rather than adding weight to a push-up, you might do a chest press instead, where you're holding the weight and you're still pushing the bar away from you, which is the same as you pushing yourself away from the floor. Pull-ups are often with people the opposite. So if you try pull-up and you can achieve 1, 2, possibly 3 pull-ups, and you're really straining to try to get up, and it's not with kind of that form that's in control, then again, you're probably not working it for enough reps to build strength as a result. So that's where you then might want to go for a lat pull down machine, where you can set the weight stack to half your body weight, and then you can complete enough repetitions to feel like somewhere within that 5 to 15 range, and you can do it with relatively good control. So body weight definitely has its place. So say again, some people use pull-ups and then weighted vests. So if you could do 15 pull-ups and you could do that with ease, you can use a weighted vest and hang some weight plates or also a kettlebell underneath you, and you can do more of them with that. And then as long as you're pushing to the fatigue point, then absolutely fine to do those bodyweight exercises. The other option is you can use the pull-ups, but you might use a resistance band to step into, and now it's offloading some of your body weight. So whereas you might have only done 2 or 3, you're now getting to sort of 8, 9, 10. And again, that's another option there. But yeah, body weight has its place in a strength program, but pushing to fatigue is the key point of a strength program, and body weight may not be enough for that. So that's something to be aware of. And then I've got one more question prepared. So if you are thinking of a question or want to ask any question, now's your last chance to get that in, and get that in before I finish this next question. So just use the chat feature on YouTube or the comments feature on Facebook, and I'd love to answer any more questions that you have. But the other email I had in this week, or this morning actually, was, "Hi Chris, I'm struggling because I hurt my shoulder during my house move. Have you any thoughts on how I can work around it? I'm having some treatment, but it's taking longer than I expect to heal." So what I'd say to this, so I've taken this as not as what exercises can I do to help settle my shoulder. It sounds like you're having treatment and that side of it's kind of taken care of, but how can you do the rest of your workout and not let that suffer just because your shoulder hurts? So I've got a few thoughts and ideas on how you might be able to work around that. And people can kind of take the same kind of approach. So they have an area of the body that has a bit of if you twist your ankle and then you can't do a lot of the workout, you can still do some workouts, and you can find ways of picking exercises that don't challenge the ankle. And if it's a case of not doing anything or going in and doing an adaptive workout, I'd much rather you do the adaptive workout. So with regard to the shoulder, things like the push exercise, the shoulder press, or even chest press might be out. It might be that it just doesn't like the range up here, which is often what I find with people. Whereas actually, if we go into a chest press and you're just pushing forwards, it's comfortable in that range. So again, if you're comfortable in a range of motion, you don't get grimacing pain, and you don't feel like you flared it up afterwards, then you're often fine to carry on with that exercise. But if you are having treatment with a physio or another medical professional, I would check their opinion on it, because obviously I don't know the specifics of your shoulder injury. With regards to the leg strengthening and the trunk strengthening, there shouldn't be any reason we can't do some of those. But if you were doing, say, a barbell squat and the position of holding a bar behind your back is now uncomfortable, you might find that actually holding dumbbells by your side is comfortable. The position isn't the issue, and you can just let the arms hang, and then you can sit down to a chair and stand back up again and go into your squat. It might be that that is the uncomfortable bit as well, holding a weight in your hand and having that hang in on your arm. So if that then becomes painful and uncomfortable, then you might, if you're lucky enough to be doing this in the gym, you can use some of the things like the fixed machine. So you could then go into a leg press, and that's where you're just sat on it with your legs up on a plate and you're just pushing there, and your arms aren't having to do anything. You can just kind of hold them across your body, or they might hold the handles to the side. You might do a knee extension where you're kicking the leg forwards, or you might do a hamstring curl where you're pulling it back. Any of the fixed machines in a gym are often a good thing, because they just work one joint or one group of muscles in isolation without having to put too much stress on the rest of the body. At home, you can try and replicate some of those exercises with a resistance band. So you can do the kicking the leg forwards, you can do the hamstring curl pulling back, you could have it round your feet and walk sideways, so you're kind of working the muscles and the sides of your hips. The trunk rotations might be difficult where we were pulling across, because holding the arm up there might be sore in the shoulder. So it might be you do some form of sit-up, or could do a plank if it feels comfortable doing that. But I would almost, just for a few weeks, for a month or so, is try and just go back, reset your program. And I think this person is someone who's gone through the ebook, so you can have a look back through all the different variations to see if you can find variations that the shoulder does tolerate. And any exercise you might have done in the past, then we can try and bring those in as well. But yeah, it's try and find a program of exercises you can work on that are comfortable. And even if we're not necessarily pushing them to fatigue, if we can maintain some strength through those exercises, that's going to be beneficial. So I would work on doing that for maybe a month or so, and then when the shoulder starts to settle, we can start to kind of reintroduce some of the exercises that are now causing you a bit of discomfort. And if we do it again with very low weight and gradually build up, rather than feeling we have to jump back in and catch up for lost time, we want to test the water out, see if it can deal with a bit of stress through the shoulder. And it's a bit like I was talking about at the start. Our joints and our soft tissues respond positively to stress if we do it at the right rate. So if we can stress it a little bit more, add a little bit more weight, and if it tolerated that well, great. Next time, let's add a little bit more. And we need to kind of use that as a thing that paces us rather than muscle fatigue, because we're probably not going to push to muscle fatigue straight away because we're worried that the shoulder could flare up. But yeah, I hope that helps. If there's any kind of follow-on questions from that, then do email me back and let me know. I think, say, that's all the questions that I had. We're coming up to the half-hour mark here again. So just going to mention another couple of links. So one last call for questions if you are watching live. So just as a reminder, for anyone who was looking to take action, then there's the Never Taught to Lift ebook. So it's nevertaught-to-lift.com/start here, and that link is in the description. Equally, if you know of anyone that would benefit from being stronger and has kind of started talking about it a little bit and they're looking for some help, please feel free to share this link with them. That's something I'd really appreciate. I mentioned before, you can find that on Amazon. Just search Never Taught to Lift on Amazon if you want to paperback. And then the other option you might be interested in is that same content is available in a bit more of an interactive manner via videos and group Zoom calls with myself every week, and that's nevertaught-to-lift.com/course. If you're interested in that, that's a Stronger for Life course. You can find some more information in that there. But for now, I think that is everything. So I hope you all have a great bank holiday weekend, and I will be back here at 12 o'clock next Wednesday. So take care. Enjoy your afternoon. Thanks.